You can't beat a salty sea dog, can you? He's salty, isn't he? Look at him. Salty. He's like almost become part of the sea. I think the best ones, though, are when you go back sort of to the Victorian era a little bit, and you get these sort of characters. Or this one, I think, is particularly good. I think my personal favourite is this guy here. For some reason, it chopped the top of his head off, but they're salty sea dogs, aren't they? And we'll return to this guy here. But if you go, I guess, to certain locations in Suffolk, you might stumble across a few salty sea dogs. We've met our fair share of salty sea dogs in Suffolk. Actually, where I'm from in Hull, in the fishing trade, massive deal, the trawlermen, going out in all conditions. There's a whole history around that, and very much like those guys. You can just see it in their faces. The sea and the sun and the salt and the weather has just weathered them. It's almost in them. It's almost in their skin, isn't it? In their bones. Hard men. Who often risked their lives going out into the North Sea. Now, we're here in Luke chapter 8. It's just one of the accounts of Jesus' life that we're looking at the moment. And for the last few weeks, everything's been kind of big and broad and kind of big scale. So we've been seeing Jesus going to villages and towns and cities, and then increasingly he's gone to people, and then they start coming to him. And there's crowds and crowds of people around Jesus. It's all kind of big and broad brush. And then last week we saw, here are all the different ways that people will respond to Jesus. When people hear his message, they'll respond in different ways. And it was kind of a big picture look at things. And then now we just get this one scene on one day, says Luke, in one boat, though there may have been other boats about, on one lake, in one place, the Sea of Galilee. It's like the attention suddenly is drawn into this one little moment with Jesus. Who's in the boat? Well, Jesus is in the boat, and the 12 disciples, these kind of top team of, there were others, but the 12, I guess, he's mentioned them earlier in chapter 8, verse 1. The 12 are there, and I think probably the women that are described there in chapter 8, verses 1, 2, and 3, perhaps in the boat there as well. And of course, included in the 12 are some salty sea dogs. Simon Peter and Andrew, so his brother Andrew, and James and John, they were all salty sea dogs. They looked like this guy, maybe, well, they're not quite, but you know what I mean. But they were fishermen, they were professional fishermen. And so they would have been, I guess, a bit weathered and battered by the weather. And I guess their hands would have been, hard hands, ropes and nets and fish and all of that. They were salty sea dogs. So like, 1/3 of the 12 are professional fishermen. We're going to look at this passage slightly different to how we normally do things, and we're just going to follow the narrative, what Luke describes here, and then towards sort of halfway through, we'll have a couple of questions as we think about how this applies to us, as we are most definitely now in the series Sailing with Jesus. So here we are. Luke says, one day Jesus said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side of the lake. So they got into a boat and set out. Now this is the Sea of Galilee. Later on in verse 26, beyond our passage, Galilee is mentioned, and they're all in and around the Lake Galilee. The Sea of Galilee is still there, obviously, and its surface kind of area is 64 square miles. It's 13 miles long and 7 miles wide. And there they are, heading off on the water. And we're told in just the beginning of verse 23, as they sailed. Now, the word that Luke uses there for sailing is a kind of Luke word. It's one that he particularly uses. He uses it later in his second book, the book of Acts, the kind of sequel. And he uses this same word. And it's possible that this word particularly means that it's not a rowing boat. You know, it's not a little dinghy sort of thing, a little rowing boat, but actually more likely it's a sailing boat. It's got all the gear, it's got the sails and everything, and they're out in the boat. Either way, whichever option it is, I'd have been absolutely no use whatsoever, as some of you know. When me and KP when we were dating, courting, whatever it is, I don't know what you call it, the talking, isn't it? Talking at the beginning or something these days, but we did that as well. When we were going out together, we on a given point, we went down to Flatford Mill. And of course, you can go on the water there, can't you? And you get on in the boat just underneath the bridge. And on the bridge, there's lots of people all looking and watching. And we got in this boat and they passed me the oars and said, right, so you do this and off you go. Some of you know this story, you've heard it before, haven't you? And I just got in an absolute mess, a complete uncoordinated mess. And in the end, I just couldn't do it. So I had to hand the oars over to my wife, my wife. So she just took over. And a couple of years ago, we were on a church walk, and we, lo and behold, went all round there, didn't we? And of course, the story came out, and everyone had a good old laugh at my expense. Rather than me in the boat, I think you'd probably want my dad, my father-in-law, Morgan, both sailors as such, and my granddad, my dad's dad, who learnt to sail on the River Nile. If you learn to sail, you've got to learn pretty quick, right? Because if you get it wrong, it's snap, isn't it, basically? So that's where he learned, I guess, in the army, in and around the Second World War, I think it was. You'd probably want them in the boat rather than me. But you get this sense that this is a trip out, the way it's described. Jesus says, let's just go, we'll go on the lake. We'll go across the lake on the boat. It's a bit of a trip out with his friends on the water. And Jesus is asleep, isn't he? Verse 23, as they sailed, he fell asleep. And then we're told that there was a squall. It says a squall came down on the lake. Now that word squall can mean a hurricane, a storm, a whirlwind. So that's what's going on here. It's a proper big storm. And it says, doesn't it, a squall came down on the lake. So parts of the Sea of Galilee, especially on the eastern side, are surrounded by hills that drop quite suddenly down to the lake, even actually cliffs on the eastern side, I believe. And it kind of creates a bit of a funnel. And so, you can imagine that all of a sudden the weather that's it's upon you, it comes down and into the lake and you find yourself in the thick of a great big storm. And that's what happens here. And they're in this storm. And then we're told the boat was being swamped. Actually, that's what it says in my translation. You might have the English Standard Version, which says that they were filling up. That they were being swamped. It's kind of true, isn't it? If you think if the boat's been swamped, then they're swamped. They're desperately trying to bail out and keep the thing afloat. And actually, they're swamped. They're not just feeling swamped, they are swamped. Have you ever felt swamped before in life? I guess many of us have, haven't we? Just absolutely overwhelmed. Desperately trying to bail it out, but getting nowhere. And there they are, they're swamped, the boat is swamped, they can't cope, they can't keep up, and they're in great danger. I have a healthy respect for the sea and water. I'm not a strong swimmer. And so I have a healthy respect for it. I don't fit in because my family are all fishes. I mean, they really are. They swim like fishes. My siblings, my dad, they operate like a fish in the sea. When I was a child, the story goes that my grandparents, so including Grandad who learnt to sail on the Nile, so no sympathy there whatsoever, they took me out on one of those little boats up in Northumbria. You can go out and you go out to a little island and you see the puffins or whatever it is and the lighthouses. It's all very rugged up there and you get in the little boat and the story goes that I sat there in my little blue cagoule clutching this packet of custard creams like this because the sea's there, it's like right next, there's no escape, and I just was absolutely terrified. And as I say, Grandad Niall was there, so there was no sympathy whatsoever. I've had a few hairy channel crossings as well, it would be fair to say, but let's not go there now. Life is full of threats and dangers, isn't it? You know, these guys back then, they would have known it's not a safe place to live, is it? It's sort of that part of the world in those days. In many ways, we fare better as modern people, but they faced all sorts of threats and dangers in their lives, including this one. And we do too, don't we? Actually, as you get around and talk to people, you realise that, you know, some of you in your working lives, there are real dangers in what you do. Some of you farmers know it with you know, machinery and equipment and also there are all sorts of things that can go wrong in just a moment. There are all sorts of dangers and threats in our lives. Just a few weeks ago now, I just happened to turn the corner from one room into another, and the baby was rolling a ball bearing between her fingers. Now, how it quite got there, but anyway, we've not quite got round to properly baby-proofing this one, but but she was just rolling it between her fingers. Now, it's one of the most dangerous things in your home, isn't it, for a baby to, and I just, oh, there we go, thank you very much. But we thank God on that day. We really did. It's a dangerous place to be, this world, isn't it? I was talking to someone just the other day whose partner was in Iraq. Not in the forces, but you know, just in Iraq on work. And then, of course, it was like they were due to come home. It's like, just stay put, because it's all kicking off in that part of the world. Awfully so, isn't it? And so they stayed put for a little while and didn't see them around the village. And then I saw that the said spouse just, you know, in the village. So, okay, so they're back now. And then I bumped into the person who I'd originally had the one that I'd talked to, and they just said, yeah, they waited a while, and then eventually the kind of convoluted route, which perhaps I won't give all the details away, but there was a bus journey which was pretty scary, and then there were flights in various directions, and they said as they flew through the sky, they looked out of the window and they could see the missiles and the interceptors. That's life in our world, isn't it? It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And these guys, they're in a storm. Actually, I think sometimes sort of Christian art, if you like, can be unhelpful when we're trying to understand the Bible. But I think Rembrandt actually does it pretty well. You know, it's like that, isn't it? The boat's almost over, it's just full of water, and it's absolutely terrifying. Now, the disciples turned to Jesus at that point. Verse 24, the disciples went and woke him, saying, Master, we're going to drown. Now, remember, this is the disciples, right? This is the salty sea dogs. So they really do believe that they're going to, if they didn't think they were going to die, they wouldn't say. They'd handle it. They'd just deal with it, wouldn't they? Because they're hard men with great big hands who are used to running a boat and keeping it afloat. And they panic and they say, Jesus, we are going to die. I don't know where the women are at this point. I guess children get colds, men get flu, and women get on with it, don't they? So maybe that's what's going on. But joking aside, they are terrified for their lives. This is a life and death storm, and the storm has come down, and now the boat is going down, and it's going to take them down with it. And that's down 20, 30, 40, possibly even 50 meters deep. And to date, Jesus is asleep. He's fast asleep on the boat. Well, they go and wake him, don't they? Master, you can hear the emotion. You know, Jesus, wake up. And we're told he got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. Hold on a minute. It's mad, isn't it? Rebuked. He rebuked a storm. I mean, if you or I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? But he says, I guess he wakes up and he gets up, he stands up and he says, "Oi, enough!" And the storm stops in an instant. Sorry, never mind Mother's Day. You got a little touch of my fatherly... anyway, no, never mind. Enough said. But the storm stops immediately. You know, where are we? We're on the Sea of Galilee, right? So the word is Galileus. Galileus, right? Galileus is where we are. And the word for calm here, this might be far-fetched, I don't know, but here we are at Galileus, and the word for calm here is Galene. You can almost hear it, can't you? Galileus, and all the fear and all the adrenaline and all the panic and all the rest of it, and it's all da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Galene. Stop. And Jesus stops it. It's like something on the films, isn't it? You know, and then... It's just gone. It's not just that Jesus told the storm to stop and it stopped. I mean, that is a miracle, isn't it? That's incredible in and of itself. But the language here is very clear. Literally, it says that the storm, it ceased and there was calm. It's as if Jesus, he just bottles it in a moment. It's as if Jesus gets in the boat, gets his empty bottle of Fentimans and just takes the storm and just goes and puts a cork on it. And you remain there until I tell you where to go next. Isn't that incredible? There's nothing like it, is there? And all was calm. Jesus is in complete control of the situation, the terrifying situation that they face. And then he turns to his disciples, doesn't he? Verse 25, "Where is your faith?" He asked his disciples in fear and everything, isn't it? All the emotions, in fear, amazement, it's all going on for them. They asked one another, "Who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him." Two questions as we think about this for ourselves. Where is your faith, says Jesus. Jesus says, where is your faith to them? The kind of force of it, the thrust of what he's saying is, where's it gone, guys? You know, where's your faith in, where's your trust in me gone? You should have trusted me. You know, they've seen Jesus heal the centurion's servant who was close to death in chapter 7. Then just after that, Jesus has raised a widow's son who had died, simply by just going to the body and saying, "Get up." And this guy gets up, to the great delight of his mother and others, I guess. They've seen that. And then now, where's your faith gone? Where's your trust gone, says Jesus. Notice that Jesus says, where? There are different questions we can ask, aren't there? How, what, why? It's how you organise an event, isn't it? What, why, where, who, why? But Jesus says, where is your faith? In this particular situation, Jesus does not say, what is your faith? You know, the sort of FIC doctrinal basis. Here's my, these are the things that either the creed, the Nicene Creed or whatever. I am all for those things and they're important. We need to bolt down what we believe about Jesus is highly important. But in this moment, Jesus doesn't say, what do you believe? He doesn't say, when is your faith? You know, when was the moment when you came to know Jesus? What's your story? What's your testimony? Again, that's massively important, but he doesn't say, when is your faith? He doesn't say, why is your faith either, does he? Give me the reasons for the hope that you have. Well, we're encouraged to do that, but Jesus doesn't say, why is your faith? Why do you believe or don't? He doesn't say, how is your faith? He could have said that. How's your faith going, guys? How's it? What level is it? Is it up? Is it down? How's it going? He doesn't say that either. He says, where is your faith? With the implication that it's gone and they've put it somewhere other than where they ought to have. in him. Our culture does this thing for us, doesn't it, where it says that there's faith people and stuff over here, and then there's facts people and stuff and science and secularism and all of that over here. There's that and there's that. That's the world that we live in. That's how it's been described to us. But the reality is that everyone has faith in something. Everyone does, even involved in a secular worldview or understanding science, that yes, of course, there's reasoning, facts and evidence and intuition and experience and all the rest of it, just like there is for us Christians who put our faith in Jesus, but there's also faith and trust in some things. It's a mix, it's a messy mix. Everyone has faith in something. The only question is, where are you putting your faith? Says Jesus. Where is your faith? We all put ultimate trust in something. Where do you put your ultimate trust when the storm hits? And they ought to put their faith, their trust, in something in the boat. But there's so many options to choose from, aren't there? Just think about it. Maybe, Jesus says, where is your faith? Maybe they put their faith in the boat. It's a big one. It's got sails. It's not a little dinghy. It's not got little oars. Rich tea isn't helping them in the boat, so they feel a degree of security in the boat, right? Maybe they put their faith in the boat, the gear. Or maybe they put their faith in just the location. Is this Sea of Galilee? We've done this a million times before. We know this. We're boys from round here, right? We know what we're doing round here. Maybe they put their faith in their abilities. Sometimes we put our faith perhaps in our hearts or our heads, but for them it's their hands, isn't it? We're all over this. We've done this. Or maybe some of them weren't, but we've got Simon Peter with us. We've got Andrew. We've got James and John. They're fishermen. Maybe they put their faith in each other in the boat, in the team, in the Salty Sea Dogs. And they ought to put their faith in something in the boat. But that something is a someone. And he's not called Simon. And he's not called Andrew. And he's not even called James or John. Because his name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. So the question is, where is your faith? Jesus implied, look, when we're all misplacing it somewhere, where is your faith? You know, the storms of life will come. That's just a fact. I'm a pastor, I know that. Spend time with lots of people. The storms of life will come. All kinds of storms, different shapes and sizes and seasons of your life and circumstances, but the storms of life will come for all of us. The Bible says, doesn't it, that we're born to trouble as the sparks fly upwards. It's as sure as that. As the sparks fly upwards, we're born to trouble. The storms will come. In those moments, where is your faith? When those moments come, where is your faith? You know, you young people, and I know as soon as I say that I have to caveat it, I'm 36, okay, but there are therefore a whole batch of you who are now thoroughly younger than me, right? I know many of you are older, but some of you are not, okay? And you young people, if I can say this with all due respect, you are all at sea, some of you. You are all at sea. You're all over the place. Now, some of that is just the age and stage that you're at, and it's all different questions and unknowns, and what am I going to do with my life, and where's things going, and some of it's physiological as well. Your body's changing, isn't it? You're growing up and all the rest of it. I don't know what age you're at or stage or whatever, but there is a sense that many of you, particularly in our culture today, you are all at sea. You're all over the shop. You don't know where you're going, left from right, and all the rest of it. If I may be so bold. And the only question is, will you put your faith in the one who gets onto the sea, into the boat, and has the audacity to then fall asleep and stay asleep through a raging, terrifying storm, and then has the authority to wake up and say, stop now. And it stops. Will you put your faith in him? Will you put your trust in him? Many people in our culture today are looking for a sense of calm, aren't they? You know, we look for a sense of calm and peace. And we look in all sorts of places for that. In meditation, in medication, in conversations around things to do with mental health. Now, these are all important things and many of them helpful things. But can I just be really frank and say, in the midst of all the storms of life, where is your calm going to come from? Well, it needs to come from him. This is an old hymn. It's called Eternal Father, Strong to Save. It's one that the British Navy and the American Navy often sing on special occasions. This is the second verse. It goes like this: O Saviour, whose almighty word the winds and waves submissive heard, who walked upon the foaming deep, and calm amid the rage did sleep. If you want a sense of calm in this life and in this world, then look no further than Jesus and put all of your trust in him. Many people today in our culture, we've shown you this before, haven't you? What's missing? The kids love this, don't they? What's missing? It's the ice cream. Ever feel like something's missing? There are a lot of people in our culture today who are feeling like this. There's something missing. What is it? In life, there's a crisis of meaning in our culture, isn't there? What is it, this thing that's missing? Maybe you look at your Christian friends and you've just seen something in them. They're not perfect people. They're messy people, like we all are, but you just see something in them. They've got some sort of anchorage, you know, there's some weight to them. There's some kind of ballast. There's some kind of peace and stability in them, some sort of security that they have, some kind of hope that they have. Do you realize that all of that comes from him? That's why they're like that, because they have that from Jesus. You see, they have put their trust in the one who is ultimately trustworthy. Now, it's Mothering Sunday, isn't it? And let me say that as far as I understand, and I do have a beautiful wife and a mum and a sister and two daughters, so, you know, I've seen some stuff a little bit, but as far as I can see, motherhood is full of storms. You know, there can be storms right at the beginning, and I'm not going to go through everything, but you know that all the way through, aren't there, raising children, there are stormy times, there are unstable times, and I have it on good authority, I'm told that it doesn't get any, you know, and that gets more complicated, and there's a sense in which I'm a pastor, but I could go and say, well, I'm going to go and be a bowling alley attendant, right? I'm going to hand it all in and go be a bowling alley attendant. And I'd be a bowling alley attendant. But if you're a mum, and you're still here on this earth, and the Lord has still given you that child or children there on earth with you, then, well, while you're a mum, you're always a mum. And there are all sorts of storms all the way through. And so the question, and it's actually one for us gents as well, isn't it? It's a question for all of us, because it's parenting and it's life and work and whatever zone of life you're in, where is your faith? And then the second question is this: who is this? That's their question, isn't it? And no wonder. Imagine they've been through all of that. Who is this? Who is this? And who is he? Well, he's human, isn't he? He's very human. Jesus was asleep. People sometimes gloss over. We miss that, don't we? Jesus was asleep. It's so human, isn't it? Maybe Jesus had planned to have a kip on. He says, "Oh, let's go." He says, "It's a trip out, isn't it? We'll go on the lake." And he's already thinking, I'm just going to have a little 30 winks, whatever it is. But maybe he planned to have a nap. But that's not always how it goes, is it? You ever thought, we'll go to the cinema. I'd love to see that film. We'll go to the cinema and see that film. You think, it's great. And it's a great film. It's really good. It's absolutely gripping. And you're sat there, and then and you just can't stay. You can't stay awake, right? You get to that point, don't you? I've been there before. A few years ago, when the older two were younger and busy church, busy family life, there were times when I would just lie down on the living room floor and thought she'd just find me asleep on the living room floor. You're putting them to bed and they say, can you just, I'm trying to teach you to go to bed myself, but I'll just lie down next to you and before they're asleep, you're asleep, right? That's so human, isn't it? We're sometimes overtaken with tiredness. Maybe Jesus, he's 100% human, was just done. And he fell asleep on the boat. He's totally human. Dorothy Sayers, the crime novelist, said he submitted to the conditions he had laid down and became a man like the men he had made. Jesus is 100% human. He submitted himself to the conditions of being a human being, and he is 100% God as well. He stops the storm. Only God can do that. He stops the storm. And these guys, they've got their eyes open. They know the Old Testament. Don't panic, they told me already, it's all right. They know the Old Testament. They know that that's God's prerogative. That's what God does. God can calm the raging seas. God's in control of the weather and the sea, the wind, the waves, and all the rest of it. That's a God thing. Someone has put it very aptly and very briefly. What God did then, Jesus does now. That's it, isn't it? What God did then, Jesus does now. They've just seen him stop the storm with a word. Sometimes people scoff at this story. Oh, yeah, come on, this is a bit... It's funny, isn't it? Still in our culture today, when you go into the realms of law and insurance, we have this little phrase, an act of God. That's funny, isn't it? If I'm right in understanding, when something is unforeseen and unpreventable, and it's not, you can't blame a human being for it, like get your insurance claim in or whatever, then it's referred to as an act of God. This is an act of God, truly an act of God. Forget that category, but it is an act of God because Jesus is God. He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him. That word obey, secondary meaning of it is, we know this in life, that is to listen or to hear. Well, it's true, isn't it? If you're going to obey, you have to listen and hear. And just tucked in there is the idea that the wind and the wave, they did listen to Jesus. Remember the challenge last week was for us to hear Jesus and listen to him and hear the disciples say, wow, even the wind and the waves listen to our Jesus. Life is full of danger and troubles and perils and threats and problems and storms of all different shapes and sizes. Are you sailing with Jesus through the storms of this life? Are you sailing with him through it all? Are you? Or let me say, would you? Could you? Will you sail with Jesus through the storms of this life? Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Where is your faith? When you're feeling swamped, when you are swamped, when your diary and your day and the demands upon you are just filling up and filling up and filling up, where is your faith? Says Jesus. When life is stormy, or when the boat that you just climbed into is going down to the bottom of the sea, where will you turn? Who can you trust? Where is your faith? Let's pray.